Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll dive into what if Himiko Toga was in Class 1A. Smash that subscribe button, and be sure to peek at the description below. Let's begin. The world was gray. That was the first thing Himiko Toga decided about the detention center. The walls were gray concrete, the floor was gray tile, and the bars were a dull, unpolished steel. Even the food paste they slid through the slot in the door was a sad, lump in gray. It was boring. It was so incredibly, painfully boring that Himiko felt like she might actually die. Not the fun kind of dying, where your heart races and everything gets warm and sticky, but the slow, dry kind of dying where you just withered away like a flower left on the pavement. She lay on the cot, her legs kicked up against the wall, counting the cracks in the ceiling. 104. 105. She traced the scar on her arm with a fingernail. It had been 3 weeks since the police had dragged her away from Saito-kun. Poor Saito-kun. He had looked so pretty with the straw protruding from his shoulder, his face pale and sweating. She had only wanted to become him. To know him. Why didn't anyone understand that? Love was about sharing everything. Even the red stuff on the inside. 106, she whispered to the empty room. I'm hungry. She wasn't hungry for the gray paste. She was hungry for life. For color. The heavy metal door at the end of the corridor clanged open. That was new. Usually, the guards didn't come down here unless it was shift change, and they never opened the heavy door. They were afraid of her. It was funny, really. She was just a high school girl. A petite, cute high school girl. Why were big men with guns so afraid of a little girl with a knife? Footsteps approached. They weren't the heavy, booted stomps of the guards. These were light. Click-clack, click-clack? Like claws on tile. Himiko rolled over, her golden cat-like eyes narrowing as a shadow fell across her cell bars. Good afternoon, Himiko Toga, a voice said. It was high-pitched, polite, and sounded cheerful. Himiko sat up, tilting her head. Standing on the other side of the bars was a bear? A mouse? A dog? It was a small, white furry creature in a very sharp suit with a red tie. He had a scar over one eye and a smile that didn't quite reach the rest of his face. A plushie? Himiko asked, blinking. The police sent a plushie to interrogate me? I am Principal Nizu, the creature said, bowing slightly. And I am the principal of UA High School. I assume you've heard of it? Himiko flopped back onto the cot. The Hero's School. Boring. Are you here to lecture me? The police lady already did that. She said I was aberrant. I think that means cute in police talk. I am not here to lecture, Nizu said. He climbed up onto a stool a guard had placed for him, bringing him eye level with her. I am here to offer you a choice. A very rare, very experimental choice. Himiko yawned, flashing her sharp canines. I choose to go home. I want to play. Home is not an option, Nizu said, his voice dropping an octave. It suddenly lost its cheer, replaced by a cold, animalistic seriousness. You attacked a student. You drained his blood. In the eyes of the law, you are a villain in the making. You are facing juvenile detention until you are 18, followed by transfer to a maximum security psychiatric ward. You will spend the rest of your life in a gray room, Himiko. Himiko froze. The gray. Forever? No warmth. No red. No friends. But Nizu continued, the cheer returning as if by magic. I believe that society is too quick to discard those with difficult quirks. Your psych profile suggests your bloodlust is a somatic side effect of your transformed quirk. You crave blood because your body requires it to function, much like a diabetic requires insulin. Himiko sat up again, intrigued. You think I'm sick? I think you are starving, Nizu corrected. And starving things bite. So, here is the proposal. The Hero Public Safety Commission has authorized a villain rehabilitation program. It is highly controversial. If you accept, you will be released into my custody. And then what? You will enroll in UA High School. Class 1A. The Hero Course. Himiko stared at him. Then, she burst out laughing. It was a manic, bubbling sound that bounced off the concrete walls. Me? A hero? Mr. Bear, I stabbed a boy because he looked cute. I'm not a hero. Precisely, Nisa smiled, showing rows of small, sharp teeth. You are chaos. And Yui needs to learn how to handle chaos. You will be monitored 24/7. You will wear a Quirk-suppressing anklet. You will have mandatory counseling. You will be fed ethically sourced blood packs to manage your cravings. If you attack a student, you go to prison. If you try to escape, you go to prison. If you fail your grades, you go to prison. Himiko walked to the bars, gripping the cold steel. She looked into Nisa's beady black eyes. She saw something there. Not fear. Not disgust. Just pure, unadulterated curiosity. He was a scientist looking at a new specimen. Is it fun? She asked softly. Yue? Nisa chuckled. It is the center of the superhuman society. It is the most chaotic, intense, and vibrant place in Japan. It is anything but gray, vibrant. Himiko licked her lips. Okay, Mr. Bear. I'll play your game. Let's be heroes. The uniform was stiff. That was Himiko's first complaint. The standard Yui blazer was boxy and restrictive, and the skirt was too long for her liking. Within 10 minutes of being given her new clothes in the intake room, she had modified them. She threw on her favorite oversized beige cardigan, which Nisa had surprisingly allowed her to keep from her personal effects, and hiked the skirt up. Comfort is key for agility, she told the sour-faced guard who unlocked her handcuffs. The guard didn't reply. He just pointed to the heavy black band clamped around her left ankle. The light on it blinked a steady, ominous green. Remember, the guard grunted. GPS tracking. Heart rate monitor. And if you activate your Quirk without authorization, it delivers a 50,000-volt shock. Kinky, Himiko giggled. The guard turned pale and stepped back. She was escorted to the school not by a bus, but by a black sedan with tinted windows. When she stepped out, she had to shield her eyes. The building was massive. A giant glass H glistening in the sunlight. Students were walking through the gates, laughing, talking, living. Himiko took a deep breath. She could smell them. Sweat. Perfume. Fear. Excitement. It smelled like a buffet. Move it, her escort grunted. It wasn't a normal teacher. It was a man in a trench coat and a hat. Detective Tsukachi. He looked tired. I'm taking you to homeroom 1A. Do not speak to anyone in the halls. They navigated the labyrinthine corridors. Himiko skipped along, her loafers tapping a jagged rhythm. She felt eyes on her, but she didn't care. She felt alive. They stopped in front of a massive door. A giant 1A was painted on it in red. Wait here, Tsukachi said. Your teacher will call you in. Himiko leaned against the wall, humming a little tune. She could hear voices inside. Remove your foot from the desk. It is an insult to the upperclassmen who used it before you. Shut up, Four Eyes. I'll blow you up. Oh wow, look at the size of this room. It sounded loud. It sounded chaotic. Himiko grinned, her cheeks flushing pink. Inside the classroom, the noise abruptly died. Himiko pressed her ear to the door. A new voice spoke. It sounded like gravel grinding against sandpaper. It took you 8 seconds to quiet down. Time is limited. You kids aren't rational enough. A pause. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. Nice to meet you. Murmurs of confusion. Aizawa? The hobo in the sleeping bag. Now, the tired voice continued. Before we begin, we have a unique situation this year. Yui is piloting a new program. You will have a 21st classmate. Himiko straightened her cardigan and fixed her hair buns. It was showtime. She is a probationary student under the Villain Rehabilitation Act. She is strictly monitored. If she tries anything, I will stop her. If you provoke her, you will be punished. Come in. Himiko slid the giant door open. 20 pairs of eyes snapped toward her. The room was bathed in morning sunlight. She saw a boy with glasses, a boy with messy green hair, a girl with a round face, a boy with an explosion of ash blonde hair. Himiko stepped onto the podium, clasping her hands behind her back. She rocked on her heels, scanning the room, dissecting them. Cute. Boring. Scary. Cute. Tasty. Hi! She chirped, her voice bright and sweet. I'm Himiko Toga. I like knives, pomegranate juice, and taking things apart to see how they work. I hope we can be best friends. She flashed a smile. It wasn't a polite smile. It was a smile that showed way too much gum and way too many teeth. The silence in Class 1A was absolute. It was the kind of silence that usually preceded a scream. A villain? A short boy with purple balls on his head squeaked. They put a villain in here? She's wearing a tracker, a tall girl with a ponytail whispered, pointing at Himiko's ankle. Is this a joke? The ash-blonde boy, Bakugo, slammed his hands on his desk. Sparks popped and crackled. You expect us to study with a damn psycho? Look at her. She's obviously crazy. Himiko's eyes locked onto Bakugo. She leaned forward, sniffing the air. You smell like burnt sugar. Spicy. Bakugo bristled. Ha! I'll kill you! Bakugo, sit down, Aizawa said. His hair was floating, his eyes glowing red. His capture scarf was already half uncoiled, hovering like a snake. Toga, take the empty seat behind Midoriya. Himiko looked at the green-haired boy. He was trembling, visibly vibrating. He looked like a rabbit that had just realized it was in a cage with a fox. Midoriya. She skipped down the aisle. As she passed the boy with glasses, Ida, he stiffened like a board. As she passed the round-faced girl, Uraraka, the girl flinched. Himiko slid into the seat behind Midoriya. She leaned forward, whispering right into his ear. Nice to meet you, Greenie. Midoriya let out a high-pitched squeak and slammed his forehead onto his desk. Put these on, Aizawa said, tossing gym uniforms to the front row to pass back. We're going to the grounds. A Quirk apprehension test. The locker room was awkward. That was an understatement. It was a suffocating chamber of tension. Himiko hummed as she unbuttoned her shirt, seemingly oblivious to the atmosphere. The other girls, Mina, Tsuyu, Ochako, Momo, Jiro, Toru, were huddled on the far side of the room, changing as quickly as possible. Hey, a pink-skinned girl, Mina, whispered loudly. Should we say hi? She's a villain, Ribbit, the frog girl, Tsuyu said bluntly. Sensei said she's dangerous. She looks kinda normal? The invisible girl, Toru, noted. Except for the eyes. And the teeth. And the creepy vibe. Himiko pulled on the UA gym uniform. It was boring blue with white lines. She hated it. She missed her sweater. She turned around to face the group. You guys have such pretty skin, Himiko said, breaking the silence. The girls froze. Especially you, Himiko pointed at Ochako Uraraka. It looks so soft. Like a marshmallow. Does it bruise easily? Ochako took a step back, her hands coming up defensively. I don't know. I'd love to find out. Himiko smiled, stepping closer. We're going to be changing together every day, right? We should get to know each other. I can show you my knife collection later if... Beep. The ankle monitor let out a sharp warning chirp. Her heart rate was elevating. Himiko sighed, backing off. Never mind. The bracelet gets mad if I get too excited. She slammed her locker shut and skipped out of the room, leaving 6 terrified girls in her wake. The P grounds were vast, open, and dusty. The sun beat down on the students of Class 1A. Aizawa stood with a tablet in hand, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. A Quirk apprehension test? Uraraka asked nervously. But what about the entrance ceremony? The guidance sessions? If you're going to become a hero, you don't have time for such leisurely events, Aizawa drawled. UA's selling point is plus ultra. That means no time for nonsense. He swept his gaze over the class. Bakugo. How far could you throw a softball in middle school? 67 meters, Bakugo scoffed. Try it with your quirk. Bakugo stepped into the circle. He winded up, screaming die. As he unleashed a massive explosion. The ball rocketed into the sky. 705.2 meters, Aizawa read from his device. The class erupted. Awesome! We can use our quirks? This is gonna be fun. Fun? Aizawa's mood darkened instantly. You have 3 years to become heroes. You think it's going to be fun? Fine. Let's make it interesting. The student who ranks last in total points will be judged to have no potential, and will be punished with immediate expulsion. The mood shattered. Panic set in. Himiko stood in the back, rocking on her heels. Expulsion? That meant prison. That meant the grey room. She frowned. This was a problem. Hey, she poked the arm of the person next to her. It was Midoriya. He jumped about a foot in the air. Why yes? How does this work? She asked. I mean, my quirk lets me turn into other people. But I have to drink their blood first. And I don't have any blood right now. I just had a juice box. Midoriya blinked, his analytical brain momentarily overriding his fear. Oh. That's a huge disadvantage. This is a physical test. If you can't transform into someone with a physical enhancer, you're stuck with your base stats. Base stats? Himiko tilted her head. Your natural strength and speed, Midoriya muttered, tapping his chin. Without a transformation, you're effectively quirkless for this test. He froze, realizing the irony. He had been quirkless until yesterday. Now he was standing next to a villain who was in the same boat. Sucks for me, Himiko shrugged. Guess I have to try hard. Test 1, 50-meter dash. Himiko lined up against Ida. The engine-legged boy revved his engines. I will not lose to a criminal, Ida declared, adjusting his glasses. You're loud, Himiko said. Start. Ida was a blur. 3.04 seconds. Himiko sprinted. She didn't run like a track star. She ran like a predator. Low to the ground, arms swinging, erratic but fast. She crossed the line. 6.8 seconds. Not bad, Aizawa noted, marking his tablet. Above average for a teenage girl. But nothing special here, Himiko panted, wiping sweat from her forehead. She glared at Ida's smoking engines. If I had his blood, I could go zoom too. Test 2, grip strength. Shoji, 540 kilograms. Himiko, 35 kilograms. She stared at the dynamometer. This is rigged. I can crush a windpipe, that takes way less force. Mineta, the great boy, sidled up to her. Heh, only 35? Girls really are weak, huh? Himiko looked at him. She didn't smile. She just imagined him as a grape being popped. Her ankle monitor chirped. Mineta shrieked and ran away. Test 3, standing long jump. Aoyama used his laser to fly. Bakugo used explosions. Himiko jumped. She was agile, thanks to years of running from cops and hiding in alleys. She cleared the sandbox comfortably, landing in a crouch. It was good gymnastics, but compared to the heroes, it was pathetic. Test 4, repeated sidesteps. Mineta was the king here. Himiko was fast, her reflexes sharp, but she was getting tired. The sun was hot. She was thirsty. Not for water. She looked around. Everyone was using their quirks. They were flashing fire, ice, lasers, acid. It was a kaleidoscope of power. And she was just Himiko. She looked at the scoreboard Aizawa was casually checking. She was in the bottom 3. If I go back to the grey room, she whispered, clenching her fists until her nails dug into her palms, I'll die. Test 5, ball throw. This was it. The big one. Uraraka stepped up. She touched the ball. Infinity. Cheater, Himiko grumbled affectionately. That was an amazing power. She wanted it. She wanted to float. Then, it was Himiko's turn. She walked to the circle. She held the ball. It felt heavy, Toga, Aizawa said. You have no stored blood? Nope. You guys took my stash, she pouted. Then deal with it. Himiko glared at him. She wound up. She used her whole body, twisting her hips, snapping her arm like a whip. It was a technique she used to throw knives. The ball flew. It landed. 42 meters. Weak, Bakugo laughed from the sidelines. Go back to jail, freak. Himiko walked back to the group, her head down. The hunger was clawing at her stomach. The urge to cut someone, just a little, just to get a sip, to get stronger, was overwhelming. Her hand twitched toward her pocket, but there was no knife. Only the gym fabric. Next, Midoriya, Aizawa called. Himiko watched. The green boy walked up. He looked like he was going to vomit. He's quirkless too, isn't he? She whispered to Uraraka. No, Uraraka whispered back, keeping a safe distance. He did something amazing at the entrance exam. But he gets hurt. He gets hurt. Himiko watched intently. Midoriya stood in the circle. He wound up. His arm began to glow with red veins of power. He threw. Nothing? Midoriya gasped. The ball rolled a pathetic 46 meters. Aizawa stepped forward, his scarf floating. I erased your quirk. The lecture began. Himiko couldn't hear the details, but she saw the dynamic. The teacher was crushing the boy. Telling him he was useless. Just like society told her she was useless. He's going to expel him, the ponytail girl said. No, Himiko murmured. Her golden eyes widened. Look at him. Midoriya wasn't backing down. He was trembling, yes. But he wasn't looking at the ground. He was looking at the challenge. Aizawa released him. You have one more throw. Midoriya took a breath. He mumbled something. He winded up again. This time, he didn't glow all over. Just the tip of his finger. Smash! The sound was like a cannon shot. The wind pressure ruffled Himiko's messy buns. The ball vanished into the stratosphere. 705.3 meters, Aizawa's device beeped. Midoriya turned around. His finger was purple. Broken. Swollen. Throbbing. He clutched a fist, tears in his eyes, but a fierce grin on his face. Sensei. I can still move. Himiko felt a jolt of electricity go down her spine that had nothing to do with her ankle monitor. It was beautiful, the raw emotion. The desperation. And the injury. Midoriya walked back toward the group, cradling his shattered finger. The other students looked shocked or horrified. Bakugo looked like he was about to explode with rage, but Himiko moved. She didn't think, she just moved. She stepped directly into Midoriya's path. He stopped, flinching, expecting an attack. Himiko stared at his hand. The skin was bruised dark purple, almost black. The blood was pooling under the surface, hot and fresh. It's broken, she whispered. Why yeah? Midoriya stammered, sweat pouring down his face. It's okay. Does it hurt? Himiko asked. Her cheeks were flushed. Her breathing was shallow. Yes. A lot. Himiko reached out, her fingers hovering inches from his broken digit. It looks so pretty. All that red trying to get out. You really wrecked yourself just to stay here, huh? Midoriya looked at her. Really looked at her. He saw the hunger in her eyes, yes. But he also saw recognition. I have to be a hero, Midoriya said, his voice shaking but firm. Even if it hurts. Himiko pulled her hand back, clasping it to her chest. A smile spread across her face. Not the scary, toothy grin from earlier. A softer, weirder smile. You're cool, Greenie, she giggled. You smell like iron and sweat. I think I like you. DKU. The moment was shattered as Bakugo launched himself at Midoriya. You bastard! Tell me how you did that. Aizawa's capture tape snapped out, restraining Bakugo instantly. Stop it. I have dry eye. The chaos resumed. But for Himiko, the world wasn't gray anymore. It had a splash of green, and a hint of hidden red. The results. The sun was setting. The tall hologram projected the scores. 1. Momo Yaoyorozu. 2. Shoto Todoroki. 3. Katsuki Bakugo. 18. Himiko Toga. 19. Toru Hagakure. 20. Minoru Mineta. 21. Izuka Midoriya. Himiko let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. 18th. She beat the invisible girl, who had no strength, and the great boy, who was just small. Her natural agility and knife-training athleticism had barely saved her. But Midoriya, the green boy, was staring at the bottom of the list. He was shaking. He was crying silently. By the way, Aizawa said, switching off the hologram. The expulsion was a lie. Huh? The class screamed. It was a logical ruse to draw out your upper limits, Aizawa said with a creepy grin. What? Uraraka and Midoriya shouted. Of course it was, Momo said with a sigh. It was obvious. Himiko stared at Aizawa. She tilted her head. He lied. A teacher lied. Adults always lied to her, but usually, they lied to hurt her. We want to help you, Himiko. Just stop being yourself, Himiko. But Aizawa lied to make them fight harder. He lied to make Midoriya break his finger. He lied to make Himiko run until her lungs burned. She walked up to Midoriya, who was collapsed on the ground in relief. He's a liar, Himiko said, looking at Aizawa's retreating back. Yeah, Midoriya laughed weakly, wiping his tears. But he saved us. In a way. Himiko looked down at Midoriya. Then she looked at the heavy black band on her ankle. Hey, Greenie, she said. It's Izuku. Or Deku. Please don't call me Greenie. Okay, Izuku-kun. She crouched down, ignoring the way Uraraka and Ida tensed up nearby. You bleed really well. Next time, try not to break your bones though. I want to see you do cool stuff again. She stood up and stretched, her joints popping. I think I'm going to enjoy this school, she declared to the horrified class. I'm not going back to the gray room. I'm going to stay right here. She pointed a finger at the setting sun. Plus ultra, right? As the class began to walk back to the changing rooms, keeping a wide berth around her, Himiko Toga smiled. She was hungry. She was on probation. Everyone hated her. But for the first time in a long time, she had something to look forward to tomorrow. The taste of cold blood was disappointment. That was the only way Himiko could describe it. It sat in her mouth like an old penny, metallic, flat, and utterly devoid of soul. There was no heartbeat in it, no adrenaline, no terror or love or heat. It was just biological matter, stripped of everything that made blood sing. Drink it all, Toga, Recovery Girl said sternly, tapping her cane against the floor of the infirmary. Your hemoglobin levels are fluctuating. If you drop too low, the mania sets in. You know the rules. Himiko sat on the edge of the cot, her legs swinging back and forth. She held a clear plastic pouch labeled typo negative, medical surplus. It looked like a juice box from a nightmare. She squeezed the pouch, forcing the thick, chilled red liquid through the straw and into her mouth. She swallowed with a grimace. It tastes like a refrigerator, she complained, her nose scrunching up. It's stale. It's sad blood. The person who gave this wasn't feeling anything. They were just sitting in a chair eating a cookie. That is generally how blood donation works, dear, Recovery Girl sighed, marking something on a clipboard. It is safe, screened, and ethically sourced. It will keep your Quirk satisfied and your mind stable. You are not here to hunt, you are here to learn. Finish it. Himiko drained the bag. The physical relief was immediate. The dull ache in her joints faded, and the foggy static that usually buzzed at the edges of her vision cleared up. But the itch remained, the psychological hunger. It was like eating rice cakes when you were craving a steak. It filled the stomach, but it didn't feed the beast. She hopped off the cot, tossing the empty bag into a biohazard bin. All done! Can I go to class now? I want to see Izuku-kun. Recovery Girl peered at her over her spectacles. Midoriya. His name is Midoriya. And yes, you may go. But Toga, keep that monitor green. Himiko looked down at her left ankle. The thick black band hummed silently, the small LED light blinking a steady, rhythmic green. Green means good girl. Red means zap. I'm always a good girl, Himiko lied with a grin that showed too many teeth. I'm the best girl. Walking through the halls of UA was an exercise in sensory overload. Himiko was used to the dark underbelly of the city, stale alleys, the smell of damp concrete, the sharp ozone of fear. UA smelled like lemon floor wax, expensive cologne, and teenage hormones. It was suffocatingly bright. The windows were huge. The walls were pristine. As she slid the door to Class 1A open, the low hum of conversation cut off instantly. It was the second day, and the novelty of having a villain in the classroom hadn't worn off. It had curdled into tension. Morning! Himiko chirped, skipping to her desk. She passed Mineta, who held his breath until his face turned purple. She passed Tsuyu, who watched her with unblinking, wide eyes. She passed Bakugo, who didn't look up from his desk but radiated a heat so intense she could almost taste the nitroglycerin in his sweat. She flopped into her seat behind Midoriya. He flinched, his shoulders hiking up to his ears, but he didn't run away. Hi, Izuku-kun, she whispered, leaning forward until her chin rested on his shoulder. You smell like toast today. Midoriya turned a shade of red that rivaled the blood she had just consumed. Good morning, Toga-san. Please, personal space. Aizawa-sensei said I have to be monitored, she giggled, poking his cheek. I'm monitoring you. That's not what he meant. Make her stop, Deku, Bakugo growled from the front of the room, his voice low and dangerous. Or I'll blast her back to the detention center. Himiko's eyes narrowed into slits. She didn't like the angry blonde. He was loud and smelled like burned sugar, which gave her a headache. But before she could retort, the door slammed open. I am here! A massive figure in a yellow pinstripe suit marched through the door in a bizarre, stiff posture. Coming through the door like a hero, the class erupted. The tension broke instantly, replaced by sheer awe. It's All Might. Wow, he really is a teacher. Look at that Silver Age costume. Himiko tilted her head. All Might. The symbol of peace. The man who made the villains in the underground shake in their boots. He looked shiny. Excessive. Like a balloon animal filled with justice. Welcome to Hero Basic Training. All Might boomed, marching to the podium. This is the class where you learn the fundamentals of being a hero. And to start off, we're jumping right into the deep end. He pulled a card from his pocket. Combat training. Combat? Bakugo's grin turned feral. And to go with that, All Might pointed to the wall, which began to slide open to reveal rows of numbered suitcases. You need these. Costumes made based on your Quirk registrations and requests. The class cheered, rushing toward the wall. Himiko stood up slowly. She hadn't submitted a request. She had been in a cell when the forms were due. Young Toga! All Might called out. He seemed to hesitate, his permanent smile faltering just a fraction as he looked at her. The support course, improvised, based on the gear confiscated from you by the police, modified for safety regulations. He handed her a case marked with the number 21. Himiko took it. It felt heavy. Does it have my knife? No knives, All Might said firmly. Non-lethal takedowns only. Go change. The locker room was quiet again. The girls of 1A were getting used to the routine of changing quickly while Himiko hummed to herself in the corner, but the arrival of the costumes had distracted them. Wow, Uraraka, yours looks so cool. Mina Ashido squealed. It's so spacey. Himiko glanced over. Uraraka was wearing a tight pink and black suit with large, rounded wrist guards and boots. It looked puffy and soft. It's a bit tight, Uraraka flushed, tugging at the fabric. I feel kinda exposed. It suits you, Himiko said loudly. The room froze. Uraraka turned, eyes wide. Himiko was standing in her own gear. The support course had kept the aesthetic of her villain outfit, the Seifuku, school uniform, style, but the colors were shifted. Instead of the messy beige cardigan, she wore a reinforced tactical vest in dark navy over a white shirt. The skirt was pleated but lined with Kevlar, but the biggest changes were the gadgets. Gone were the messy tubes and needles designed to drain people dry. Instead, strapped to her thighs were sleek, canister-like devices with retractable syringes. They're sample collectors, Himiko muttered, examining one. Small needles? Just a sip. She strapped on the mask. It was less bulky than her old one, covering only her mouth and nose, resembling a high-tech surgeon's mask with a grin painted on it. You look. Uraraka started, searching for a word that wasn't scary. Prepared. Himiko pulled the mask down and smiled. I look like a nurse. A bad nurse. Hey, Ochako-chan, if I get hurt, will you float me to safety? Sure? Uraraka stammered. Wait, you called me Ochako-chan? You're cute, Himiko stated simply. Cute things should have cute names. She finished lacing up her boots, heavy, steel-toed combat boots, and checked her ankle monitor. It was hidden beneath her sock, but she could feel its weight. Let's go fight, Himiko said, her eyes gleaming. Ground Beta was a fake city. Buildings of concrete and glass rose into the sky, creating a labyrinth of alleyways and streets. It was the perfect playground. All Might stood at the monitoring center entrance. Listen up. The scenario is simple. Villain team hides a nuclear weapon in the hideout. Hero team must secure it or capture the villains within the time limit. Villains win if they protect the weapon or capture the heroes. He held up 2 boxes. Teams will be drawn by lottery. Himiko bounced on her heels. I want to be with Izuku. Or Ochako. All Might reached into the box. Team A. Uraraka and Toga. Yay! Himiko cheered, throwing her arms up. She turned and launched herself at Uraraka, wrapping her in a hug. We're partners. We're going to be the best heroes. Uraraka stiffened, her hands hovering uncertainly before patting Toga's back. Why yeah. Let's do our best, Toga-san. Just Himiko is fine. Team D. All Might continued, drawing the next lots. Bakugo and Ida. The air temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Bakugo stood a few feet away, his gauntlets clicking as he clenched his fists. He turned his head slowly, his red eyes locking onto Himiko and Uraraka. TCH, Bakugo spat. I'm stuck with 4 eyes against round face and the psycho? What a waste of time. Bakugo-kun. Ida chopped the air with his hand. Do not underestimate our opponents. Toga is a specialized combatant, and Uraraka has great mobility. I don't care, Bakugo snarled. I wanted to crush Deku. But I guess I'll have to settle for exterminating a villain. He looked at Himiko. There was no playfulness in his gaze. Just pure, unadulterated hostility. Don't think just because you're wearing that uniform that you're one of us. You're just a target. Himiko felt a shiver run down her spine. Not fear. Excitement. Team A are the heroes. Team D are the villains. All Might announced. Villains, go inside and set up. Heroes, you have 5 minutes to plan. Within the dim, concrete corridors of the building, the air was stale. Bakugo-kun, we should place the weapon on the 5th floor, Ida suggested, tapping his chin. I will clear the room of loose objects to prevent Uraraka from using them as projectiles. You should guard the stairwell. Shut up, Bakugo growled. He stood by the window, looking down at the street. I'm going out. Going out? The objective is to protect the weapon. The objective is to win, Bakugo retorted. That freak isn't a hero. She's a wild animal. You don't wait for a wild animal to come to you. You hunt it down and put it in a cage. This is a training exercise. Ida protested. You are taking this too personally. She stabbed someone, Bakugo said, his voice dropping to a low hiss. She hurt a civilian. She's filth. I'm going to show the teachers they made a mistake letting her in. He kicked the door open and stomped into the hallway. Stay here and guard the stupid rock, 4 eyes. I'll handle the trash. Outside, Uraraka was looking at a floor plan of the building. Okay, Uraraka said, trying to sound authoritative. There are 2 entrances. The front door and the loading bay. Bakugo is probably going to come straight for us. He's aggressive. Himiko was busy checking the suction cups on her syringe canisters. He smells angry. Spicy angry? Yeah, he's intense, Uraraka agreed nervously. Toga-san, Himiko-chan, do you have a plan? Himiko tapped her mask. I'm good at hiding. I can erase my presence. It's a trick I learned when I wanted to watch people without them knowing. Uraraka shivered slightly at the implication but nodded. Okay. Stealth. I can make us float to be quiet? No, Himiko said. Bakugo expects you to float. He doesn't know what I can do. He thinks I'm quirkless because I don't have blood. She looked at Uraraka. Can I have some? What? Uraraka took a step back. Just a drop. Himiko held up her pinky. If I have your blood, I can turn into you. Then there will be 2 Ochakos. He won't know which one to blast. It's the perfect decoy. Uraraka looked at the sharp needles on Toga's thigh, then at Toga's pleading eyes. It was a logical strategy. But the idea of letting this girl who had hurt people for blood, take hers willingly? It was terrifying. I can't, Uraraka whispered. Not yet. I'm sorry. Himiko's face fell for a split second, a flash of genuine hurt crossing her features, before the mask of cheerfulness slammed back into place. Okay. That's okay. Consent is important, Nisa-san said so. We'll do it the hard way. Start. All Might's voice boomed over the loudspeakers. Let's go, Himiko said, her posture shifting. She hunched low, her movements becoming fluid and predatory. I'll take point. They entered through a broken window on the second floor. The interior was a maze of pillars and shadows. So quiet, Uraraka whispered. Sure, Himiko hissed. She stopped, her ears twitching. Do you hear that? Boom. 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 Heavy footsteps. Not trying to hide. He's coming, Himiko whispered. Down the main hall. Bakugo? Yeah. He's hunting. Himiko grinned behind her mask. I love hide and seek. Suddenly, around the corner, a blinding light flashed. Boom! The wall next to them exploded. Debris and dust filled the air. Uraraka screamed, shielding her face. Bakugo emerged from the smoke, his gauntlets smoking, a demonic grin on his face. Found you, he didn't hesitate. He launched a right hook straight at Uraraka. Ochako. Himiko moved. She didn't have a strength quirk, but she had reflexes honed by survival. She tackled Uraraka, shoving her out of the way. Bakugo's fist grazed Himiko's shoulder. The explosion singed her tactical vest, the heat blistering against her skin. Get out of the way, you extra! Bakugo roared, pivoting midair to blast again. Himiko rolled to her feet, pulling two knives, no, not knives, plastic training daggers, from her belt. That wasn't very nice, Katsuki! Don't call me by my first name, villain! Bakugo lunged. He was fast. Terrifyingly fast. He swung his left arm. Himiko ducked, the gauntlet whistling over her head. She slashed at his ribs with the training dagger, but his reflexes were insane. He twisted, catching her wrist. Gotcha, he snarled. Pop. A small explosion in his palm. Himiko shrieked as the force threw her backward. She slammed into a concrete pillar, the breath knocked out of her. Her wrist was burned, red and angry. Himiko! Uraraka yelled. She ran forward, touching a chunk of concrete debris. Release! She swung the floating concrete like a bat. Bakugo saw it coming and blasted it into dust, but the distraction gave Himiko a second to recover. Go! Himiko yelled at Uraraka. Run to the weapon! I'll distract him. But, go! Uraraka hesitated, then turned and sprinted toward the stairs. Bakugo made to follow, but Himiko threw her training dagger. It bounced harmlessly off his shoulder, but it got his attention. He turned slowly. You want to play hero? Fine. I'll break you first. Himiko stood up, shaking her burned wrist. Her heart was pounding. This wasn't like the alleyways. There, people ran from her. Here, he was coming at her. Come and get me, boom boom boy, she taunted. Bakugo charged. Himiko didn't meet him head-on. She ran. She used the environment, sliding under pipes, vaulting over debris. She was an acrobat in a combat zone, but Bakugo was relentless. He blew up the pipes she hid behind. He blasted the debris she vaulted over. He was a force of nature. Stop running! He screamed, launching a massive explosion that filled the corridor. The shockwave caught her. Himiko was thrown through a drywall partition, tumbling into an adjacent room. She landed hard on her side, feeling something sharp dig into her arm. She lay there for a moment dazed. The room was spinning. The noise of the explosion rang in her ears. Then, she smelled it. Iron. Rust. Sweetness. She looked down at her arm. A piece of jagged metal from the wall frame had sliced through her uniform sleeve and cut a long, shallow gash into her forearm. Red beads of blood welled up. Her blood. The world suddenly sharpened. The gray concrete became vibrant. The dust motes in the air sparkled. Ah! Himiko breathed. Her pupils dilated until the gold was almost swallowed by black. The pain vanished, replaced by a thrumming, electric need. The medical surplus blood from the morning was gone, burned away by the adrenaline and the injury. Her body screamed for replacement. She lifted her arm to her mouth and licked the wound. The taste was electric. It was hers. It was fear and excitement and pain. Tasty, she whispered. A blush spread across her cheeks. She giggled. Then she laughed. Hey! Are you dead yet? Bakugo stomped through the hole in the wall. He froze. Himiko was standing in the center of the room. She was swaying slightly. Her mask hung loose around her neck. She was licking the blood from her arm, her eyes wide and unfocused. You! Bakugo faltered. The aura coming off her had changed. It wasn't the annoying girl from homeroom. It was something primal. Katsuki, Himiko purred. She dropped her stance. She wasn't fighting like a student anymore. She was loose, erratic. You made me bleed. That's flirting, isn't it? What the hell are you talking about? Bakugo raised a gauntlet. Himiko moved. She was faster than before. Hysterical strength. The inhibitors in her brain that limited muscle output were dampened by the blood-drunk mania. She closed the distance in a blink. Bakugo fired an explosion, but she slid under it, moving like liquid. She wrapped her legs around his waist and drove her elbow into the back of his neck. Die! Bakugo roared, grabbing her leg and ripping her off. He slammed her into the ground. Normally, that would end the fight. But Himiko bounced. She twisted in midair, landing on her feet. She pulled a suction canister from her thigh. Give me some! She shrieked, lunging at him. I want to be you. I want to explode. Get away from me. Bakugo was actually on the back foot now, disturbed by the sheer ferocity of her attack. She wasn't using martial arts. She was clawing, biting, striking with reckless abandon. The ankle monitor on her leg began to beep rapidly. Warning. Warning. Heart rate critical. Adrenaline levels abnormal. More. 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 Himiko laughed, slashing with the canister. The needle extended. Bakugo caught her wrist. His face was twisted in a snarl. You really are a monster. He prepared a point-blank explosion. Stun grenade. Flash. A massive burst of light and sound. Himiko was blinded. She stumbled back, disoriented. Bakugo didn't let up. He kicked her in the stomach, sending her skidding across the floor. She gasped, curling into a ball. The mania flickered. The pain returned tenfold. She was bleeding. She was hurt. She was losing. This is why you don't belong here. Bakugo stood over her, smoke rising from his body. You can't control it. You're just a junkie for violence. Himiko looked up at him through tear-filled eyes. The gray was coming back. The hunger was turning into a hollow ache. I'm going to the gray room. I failed. Hey! Get away from her! A voice from the ceiling. Bakugo looked up. Ha! Uraraka dropped from the ventilation duct. She didn't float gracefully. She fell like a rock, screaming. She landed on Bakugo's back. Release! She slapped Bakugo's armor. Bakugo floated. What the? He flailed, his feet leaving the ground. Put me down, round face. Uraraka grabbed a pillar to anchor herself. She looked terrified, but she stood between Bakugo and Himiko. Are you okay? Uraraka asked, glancing back at Himiko. She saw the blood. She saw the manic look fading into despair. Himiko trembled. I messed up. I got hungry. I'm sorry. Uraraka swallowed hard. She reached into her utility belt. Here. She pulled out a spare blood pack, one of the medical ones Recovery Girl had insisted Uraraka carry just in case. Drink it, Uraraka ordered. Himiko stared at it. Then she snatched it, ripping it open with her teeth and downing it in seconds. The coolness washed over her. The shaking stopped. The red haze lifted. Better? Uraraka asked. Yeah, Himiko whispered. She wiped her mouth. Why? I tried to. I was acting scary. We're teammates, Uraraka said, her voice trembling but firm. And he was being a jerk. Now help me. I can't hold him forever. Bakugo was propelling himself off the ceiling with explosions, careening around the room like a pinball. I'll kill you both. Himiko stood up. She looked at Uraraka. Really looked at her. Ochako-chan, Himiko said clearly. Touch me. What? Touch me. Use your quirk on me. Uraraka didn't question it. She slapped Himiko's shoulder. Zero gravity. Himiko felt weightless. She pushed off the floor. She floated toward the ceiling. What are you doing? Bakugo roared, twisting in the air to aim at her. Himiko pushed off the wall, using her agility to ricochet. Without gravity holding her back, she was a bullet. I'm being a hero. she shouted. She didn't aim for Bakugo. She aimed past him. She pushed off a hanging light fixture, shooting down the hallway toward the stairwell where Ida was guarding the weapon. She's getting away, Bakugo realized. He tried to blast himself after her, but floating made his trajectory wonky. He smashed into a wall. Himiko flew up the stairs. She was silent. She was fast. She reached the 5th floor. Ida was standing by the papier-mâché bomb, looking at the door. Bakugo-kun? Is that you? Ida called out. Himiko drifted into the ventilation grate near the floor. She was floating, so she made no footsteps. She pushed off the wall, gliding silently behind Ida. Capture tape. She slapped the white tape around Ida's arm. Ida jumped. What? Hi! Himiko grinned, hovering upside down next to his face. She kicked off his chest, gently, propelling herself toward the weapon. She wrapped her arms and legs around the papier-mâché bomb. I love this bomb. It's mine. Hero team wins. All Might's voice boomed. The monitor room was silent. Class 1A watched the screen. They had seen the fight. They had seen Toga lose her mind. They had seen her lick her own blood. That was... Kaminari gulped. Terrifying. She moved like a horror movie monster, Zero agreed. But Midoriya spoke up, his eyes glued to the screen where Uraraka was helping Toga float back down to the ground. She stopped. She was losing control, but she came back. And they worked together. In the destroyed building, the gravity was released. Bakugo fell to the floor with a thud. He sat there, staring at his hands. He had lost. To the pebble and the psycho. Himiko walked into the room, leaning heavily on Uraraka. Her arm was bandaged. Uraraka had done a messy job with emergency tape. Himiko stopped in front of Bakugo. Hey, she said. Bakugo glared up at her. Get lost. You're really strong, Himiko said. There was no mockery in her voice. But you fight alone. That's why you lost. She pointed to Uraraka. Ochako-chan gave me blood. Not the fun kind, but the kind that stops me from eating you. She saved me. So I saved the day. Bakugo gritted his teeth so hard they creaked. He stood up, brushing past them without a word. He needed to blow something up. Himiko turned to Uraraka. Hey. Ochako-chan. Yeah? Uraraka looked exhausted. You didn't run away when I got weird. I was scared, Uraraka admitted. You were looking at me like I was food. I was, Himiko admitted cheerfully. But then you gave me a drink. That makes us friends, right? Uraraka looked at the girl, the villain, the student, the vampire. She saw the desperate loneliness behind the golden eyes. Yeah, Uraraka smiled weakly. That makes us friends. Himiko squealed and hugged her again, smearing a little bit of blood and soot on Uraraka's pink suit. Yay! I have a friend. This is the best day ever. As they walked out of the building to hear All Might's critique, Himiko Toga touched the bandage on her arm. It hurt. She was tired. Her ankle monitor was beeping a low battery warning, but for the first time, the hunger in her chest felt a little bit less like a gaping hole, and a little bit more like a space that could be filled. The bus ride was an exercise in torture. Not the fun kind of torture where you poke someone with a needle to see them jump, but the boring kind. The kind that made your bones itch and your brain feel like it was melting out of your ears. Himiko Toga sat in the back row, her legs kicked up over the empty seat next to her. She was vibrating. Literally vibrating. Her knee was bouncing so fast it was a blur, and she was chewing on the plastic straw of an empty juice box until it was a mangled, flat piece of trash. Sit still, Toga, Aizawa's voice drifted from the front of the bus. He didn't even turn around. He was slumped in his seat, looking like a corpse that had been reanimated solely to supervise teenagers. I can't! Himiko whined, throwing her head back. The bus is too slow. The air conditioning smells like old socks. And I'm bored. Read a textbook, Aizawa grunted. Boring. Himiko scanned the bus. Her classmates were chatting, oblivious to her suffering. Midoriya was muttering to himself, scribbling in a notebook. Uraraka was talking to the invisible girl, Hagakure. Bakugo was staring out the window with headphones on, looking like he wanted to murder the scenery. She slid out of her seat and crept forward, moving with that unsettling silence that made her seem like a ghost in a skirt. She popped up behind Tsuyu. "Hey, it's Tsu-chan," Himiko whispered right into the frog girl's ear. Tsuyu didn't flinch. She just turned her head slowly, her large eyes blinking. "It's Tsuyu-chan, ribbit. And you're too close, Toga-chan. You smell like rain," Himiko sniffed loudly, inhaling the scent of the girl's hair. "And pond water. Do you taste like a frog?" "I've never eaten a frog." "Are they crunchy?" "That's a weird question," Tsuyu said bluntly. "And please sit down. You're making my netta hyperventilate." Himiko glanced at the small purple boy across the aisle, who was indeed turning blue and trying to merge with his seat upholstery. She grinned, flashing her canines, and he let out a small squeak. "Fine," Himiko sighed. She looked at Midoriya. "Izuka-kun, what are you writing?" Midoriya jumped, clutching his notebook to his chest. "Oh, just hero analysis. Thinking about everyone's quirks and how they might apply to rescue scenarios. Write about me." Himiko draped herself over the back of his seat. "Write Himiko Toga, super cute, super fast, loves blood, hates math. I actually already have a page for you," Midoriya admitted, his face flushing. "Your stealth capabilities are really high level. And the way you utilize the environment, it's actually very impressive from a tactical standpoint." Himiko paused. She blinked. "You think I'm impressive?" "Well, yeah," Midoriya said earnestly. "I mean, your quirk has a lot of drawbacks, like the supply issue, but your base skills compensate for it. You're efficient." Himiko felt a strange warmth bloom in her chest. People usually called her creepy. Or a monster. Or a freak. Efficient was new. Impressive was better. "You're weird, Izuka-kun," she decided, ruffling his messy green hair. "But I like you. I'm going to keep you." "Please don't phrase it like that," Midoriya laughed nervously. "Hey," Kirishima piped up from 2 rows back. "So, Toga, you really used to fight pro-heroes and stuff?" Before you know, the bus went quiet. The elephant in the room. The villain in the uniform. Himiko turned, her smile sharp. "Yeah. Pros are fun. They bleed the same color as everyone else. But they scream louder because they think they're invincible." The silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable. "That's unmanly," Kirishima gulped. "It's just life," Himiko shrugged, hopping back to her seat as the bus began to slow down. "Everyone breaks if you hit them hard enough. Even heroes." The unforeseen simulation joint, the USJ, was a massive dome that looked like a giant greenhouse from the outside. Inside, it was a world of disasters. There were shipwrecks, landslides, burning cities, and storms, all contained within one building. "Wow!" the class chorused as they stepped off the bus. Waiting for them was a hero in a puffy white space suit. 13. "Welcome, students." 13's voice was gentle and polite. "I have been waiting for you." Himiko zoned out during the speech. Something about quirks being dangerous, about rescue being the true heart of heroism, blah blah blah. She was busy looking at the fountain in the center of the plaza. It was sputtering. Water pressure issue? She wondered idly. Or maybe a pipe burst? Then, the lights flickered. A low, electrical hum filled the air, raising the hair on Himiko's arms. "Sensei," Himiko said, her voice dropping its usual playful lilt. She tugged on Aizawa's sleeve. "Something smells wrong." Aizawa looked down at her. He didn't dismiss her. He knew her instincts were honed by living in the gutters where danger had a scent. "What do you mean?" "It smells like ozone," Himiko wrinkled her nose. "And rotting meat." Suddenly, the fountain in the plaza sputtered and died. In front of it, a small black dot appeared in midair. It expanded, swirling like ink in water, tearing a hole in reality. From the void, a hand reached out. Pale, dry skin, then a face. Covered by a severed hand, then another. And another. Scores of people began to pour out of the mist. Some were big, some small. Some looked like mutants, others held weapons. They didn't look like heroes. They looked like the people Himiko used to run with in the alleyways. The rejects, the thugs, the killers. "Stay back!" Aizawa shouted, throwing his arm out to shield the students. "Put your masks on." 13. Protect the students. What is that? Kirishima asked, squinting. Is this the exam? Like fake villains? Don't be an idiot, Himiko whispered, her hands dropping to the knives strapped to her thighs, blunt training knives, unfortunately. Those aren't robots. Those are real. I recognize that guy with the scar. He hangs out in the red light district. Real villains? Mineta shrieked. No way. How did they get in? The man with the hands all over his body stepped forward. He scratched his neck violently, his red eyes scanning the crowd of students. Eraserhead, the man rasped. His voice carried across the distance. And 13. According to the schedule we retrieved, All Might should be here. Where is he? We've been infiltrated, Aizawa muttered, his scarf rising around him like a living thing. 13. Evacuation protocol. Kaminari tried to contact the school. He's not answering. Kaminari yelled, tapping his headset. The signal is jammed. Himiko watched the man with the hands, Shigaraki. She had heard rumors of him in the underground. A spooky guy who was gathering people for something big. She had never met him, but the aura he gave off was suffocating. It was pure, childish malice. Shigaraki's eyes swept the students, dismissing them one by one. Until they landed on Himiko. He paused. He tilted his head. Well, Shigaraki chuckled, a dry, scratching sound. I heard a rumor that the metamorph got picked up by the dogs. But to see you in a Yui uniform, it's nauseating, Toga. Himiko froze. The class turned to look at her. You know him? Bakugo barked. No, Himiko said, her grip tightening on her weapons. But he knows me. That's worse. A stray dog playing dress-up, Shigaraki mocked. Do they feed you well, Toga? Do they let you drink? Or have they declawed you? I'm not a dog. Himiko shouted back, surprising herself with the anger in her voice. And my uniform is cuter than your face hands. Kill them, Shigaraki ordered the horde bored now. Leave the girl for last. I want to see if she bleeds red or blue. Aizawa launched himself down the stairs. He was a blur of black cloth and violence, taking down 3 villains in seconds. It was mesmerizing. We have to move, Ida yelled. To the exit. The class turned to run, but a wall of purple mist materialized in front of them. I am afraid I cannot allow that, a deep, refined voice spoke from the mist. 2 glowing yellow eyes appeared. We are the League of Villains. And we are here to extinguish the symbol of peace. Move! Bakugo and Kirishima lunged, attacking the mist. No, wait! Midoriya screamed. The mist expanded. It swirled around them, a vortex of darkness. Himiko felt the floor vanish beneath her feet. Izuku! She reached out. Toga! Her hand brushed his, but the darkness swallowed them whole. Splash! Himiko hit the water hard. It was cold and salty. She flailed for a second, disoriented, before her survival instincts kicked in. She kicked upward, breaking the surface and gasping for air. She was in the flood zone. The artificial lake. Toga-san! She whipped her head around. Midoriya was dog paddling nearby, looking panicked. Izuku! She swam over to him. Are you okay? Did you break anything yet? I'm fine. Midoriya sputtered. Where are we? The shipwreck zone? Looks like it. Himiko scanned the area. In the distance, a large boat was floating. We should get to the boat. I'm not a fish. Something wrapped around her ankle, not a plant. A hand? Himiko didn't scream. She didn't panic. She smirked. She twisted her body in the water, reaching down to her boot. She triggered a small mechanism in the heel, a hidden spike. She drove it into the hand gripping her. A muffled scream bubbled up from below. The grip released. Villains in the water! Midoriya yelled. Ajiri-san! A long tongue shot out of the water, wrapping around both Himiko and Midoriya. With a massive heave, they were launched into the air. They landed with a wet thud on the deck of the ship. Tsuyu climbed up the side, shaking water from her hair. Ribbit. That was close. Himiko shook herself like a dog, spraying water everywhere. Thanks, Tsu-chan. You're a great taxi. They looked over the railing. The water was churning. Dozens of villains were circling the boat like sharks. They looked angry. And they looked like they wanted blood. We're surrounded, Midoriya observed, his mind already racing. They warped us here to separate us and kill us. But they didn't know our quirks. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put Azuri-san in the water. Or me, Himiko grinned, pulling a small waterproof pouch from her belt. Inside were 2 vials of red liquid. I have a stockpile today. Courtesy of the infirmary fridge. Wait, Midoriya said, looking at the villains below. We need a plan. We can't fight them all. There are too many. I can kill them, Himiko said matter-of-factly. If I turn into you, I can use your super punch and smash their heads. No killing! Midoriya grabbed her shoulder. His eyes were intense. We are heroes, Toga-san. Heroes don't kill unless there is absolutely no other choice. And even then, we try not to. Himiko looked at him. He was serious. But they want to kill us, she argued. It's only fair. It's not about fairness, Midoriya said firmly. It's about being better than them. We need to incapacitate them. Get past them. Help Aizawa-sensei, Himiko pouted. You're no fun. Fine. Incapacitate. That means break legs, right? Ideally just knock them out, Midoriya sighed. Okay. Here's the plan. I'm going to use a Delaware smash on the water. It will create a vortex. The villains will be sucked together, and then? Tsuya asked. Then we escape while they're confused. Boring, Himiko muttered. She looked at the water. She saw a villain climbing the anchor chain. A guy with a shark quirk. I have a better idea, she whispered. Before Midoriya could stop her, Himiko vaulted over the railing. Toga! Midoriya screamed. Himiko fell toward the shark villain. In midair, she uncorked one of her vials, blood from a third-year student with a hardening quirk she had sampled during a hallway collision last week. She drank it. Her skin turned gray and rocky. She slammed into the shark villain, her hardened fist connecting with his jaw. Crack! He went down, splashing into the water. Himiko landed on a small floating platform of debris. The villain swarmed her. Get the girl! Kill the brat! Himiko laughed. It was a manic, high-pitched sound. She dodged a water blast, ducked under a sword swing, and swept the legs of a guy with 4 arms. She was dancing. Without the weight of the ankle monitor, which seemed to be malfunctioning in the weird electromagnetic field of the USJ, or maybe the water shorted it out, she felt light. She pulled her training knife. She grabbed a villain by the hair, yanked his head back, and brought the knife to his throat. Cut deep. Let the red flow. It's so pretty. The voice in her head was loud. It was screaming. The stress, the danger, the smell of violence, it was triggering her. Her pupils were blown wide. Toga, don't! Midoriya's voice. She hesitated. The blade pressed into the villain's skin, drawing a thin line of blood. The villain whimpered. Himiko looked up. Midoriya was leaning over the rail, his finger glowing. Smash! He flicked his finger. The air pressure blasted the water. A massive whirlpool formed in the center of the zone. The villains were sucked in, screaming. Himiko was caught in the updraft. She lost her grip on the villain. She was thrown backward, toward the shore. Tsuyu caught her in midair with her tongue, dragging her to safety on the concrete edge of the zone. Midoriya landed beside them a second later, clutching his broken finger. Himiko lay on the concrete, panting. The hardening quirk wore off, her skin returning to its pale cream color. She looked at her knife. There was a tiny smear of blood on it. You hesitated, Midoriya said, breathless. He was looking at her with concern, not fear. He smelled bad, Himiko lied, wiping the blade on her sock. Like old fish. You listened, Midoriya corrected her. He offered her his now-broken hand. Thank you? Himiko stared at his hand. It was scarred. Calloused. Warm. She took it. Don't get used to it, Izuku, she grumbled, letting him pull her up. Next time, I'm stabbing someone. Let's hope there isn't a next time, Tsuyu said. We need to get to the plaza. Sensei is in trouble. They crept toward the central plaza, hiding behind fountains and debris. The sight that greeted them was a nightmare. Aizawa was fighting. But he was losing. Shigaraki was fast. And every time he touched Aizawa, skin and muscle disintegrated. Aizawa's elbow was crumbling. His movements were slowing down, and there was something else. A monster. A hulking beast with black skin, an exposed brain, and a beak. The gnome. Look at him, Himiko whispered, her eyes wide. Sensei. He looks like a spider with its legs pulled off. We have to help him, Midoriya hissed, his body trembling with the urge to move. We can't, Tsuyu whispered. That monster, it's not normal. It's breaking Sensei's arms like twigs. Snap. The sound echoed through the plaza. The gnome had pinned Aizawa and snapped his wrist. Aizawa didn't scream, but his head fell back. Eraserhead, Shigaraki sighed, scratching his neck. You're so cool. But you're not the final boss. Shigaraki turned. He looked right at the spot where the 3 students were hiding. I know you're there, he called out. The little frog. The plain boy. And the traitor. Himiko stiffened. Come out, Toga, Shigaraki beckoned. Come watch your teacher die. Or better yet, finish him off. Show us you still have teeth. Himiko stood up. Toga, no! Midoriya grabbed her wrist. Let go, Izuku, she said quietly. She pulled her hand away. She walked out from behind the debris. She walked right into the open plaza. Hi, Krusty, she said, her voice echoing in the silent dome. You look terrible. Have you heard of moisturizer? Shigaraki stopped scratching. You have a sharp tongue. But you're wearing a collar. He pointed to her ankle. Society put a leash on you. They locked you in a cage because you wanted to be yourself. Why fight for them? They hate you. They fear you. He extended a hand. Join us, Toga. We don't care if you cut people. We don't care if you drink blood. We want you to be free. It was a seductive offer. A world without grey rooms. A world where she could love whoever she wanted, however she wanted. Himiko looked at the villains behind Shigaraki. They were ugly. They were mean. They smelled like rot and desperation. Then she looked at Aizawa. He was bleeding. Broken. But his eyes were still open. He was still trying to erase the gnome's quirk to protect them. She looked back at Midoriya and Tsuyu, who were watching her with terrified eyes. Not terrified of her. Terrified for her. You know, Himiko said, tilting her head. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her last blood vial. It wasn't a quirk vial. It was just a ration. The thing about you guys, she said, popping the cork, is that you have no style. She downed the blood. Her eyes glowed. And my teacher? She pointed a knife at Shigaraki. Even with his face smashed into the concrete, he looks way cooler than you. Shigaraki's eye twitched. Kill her. Noma, the beast roared. It moved faster than the eye could follow. Himiko didn't flinch. She didn't try to fight the Noma. She wasn't stupid. She threw a smoke bomb, one of the few gadgets the support course had actually let her keep. Poof! Purple smoke filled the area. Izuku! Now! She screamed. Midoriya didn't hesitate. He launched himself from the hiding spot. Smash! He aimed not at the Noma, but at Shigaraki. He knew the Noma would move to protect its master, and it did. The Noma vanished from in front of Toga and reappeared in front of Shigaraki, taking the full force of Midoriya's punch. It didn't even flinch, but it gave Toga the opening she needed. She dove through the smoke. She wasn't aiming for the villains. She was aiming for Aizawa. She grabbed the battered hero by the back of his shirt. Heavy! She grunted. Toga! Aizawa wheezed, blood dripping into his eyes. Run! Shut up, sensei, she panted, dragging him backward as Tsuyu launched her tongue to help pull them to safety. If you die, who's gonna sign my permission slips? They retreated to the bottom of the stairs. Midoriya landed beside them, his legs wobbling. It didn't work, Midoriya whispered. My punch, it didn't do anything. Game over, Shigaraki said. The smoke cleared. The Noma stood there, undamaged. You kids are annoying. Noma, kill the green one. And break the girl's legs. We'll take her with us forcibly. The Noma charged. It was like a freight train. Himiko gripped her knives. She stood in front of Aizawa. She knew she couldn't stop it. She knew she was going to die. At least I'm dying in color, she thought. At least I'm not gray. She bared her fangs and hissed. Boom! The doors of the USJ exploded inward. Dust billowed. A silhouette stood in the doorway. He wasn't smiling. I am here! All Might roared. But his voice wasn't triumphant. It was furious. The pressure in the room changed instantly. The fear that had been gripping Himiko's heart vanished, replaced by sheer awe. Finally, Himiko whispered, dropping to her knees as the adrenaline crashed. The big loud toy is here. The rest was a blur. All Might fighting the Nomu. The shockwaves shattering windows. The speed. The power. It was like watching gods fight. Himiko sat by Aizawa, pressing a cloth to his bleeding head. He was conscious, barely. You stayed, Aizawa murmured. His one visible eye was fixed on her. You look lonely, Himiko quipped, though her hands were shaking. You could have gone with them, Aizawa rasped. Shigaraki offered you a place. Himiko looked at the League. Shigaraki was throwing a tantrum. The mist guy was panicking. They were running away. They don't have good snacks, Himiko said softly. She looked at Midoriya, who was watching All Might with tears in his eyes. She looked at Uraraka running down the stairs to check on them. And besides, Himiko smiled, a small, genuine thing. I haven't finished annoying you yet, sensei. Aizawa let out a breath that might have been a laugh or a cough of pain. Problem child. The battle ended. The Nomu was punched into the stratosphere. The villains retreated. The police arrived. Detective Sakachi was there. He walked straight up to Himiko. He looked at her blood-spattered uniform, the knife in her hand, the unconscious Aizawa behind her. His hand went to his gun. Toga. Did you? She saved him, Midoriya interrupted. He stepped between the detective and Toga. She saved Aizawa-sensei. She fought the villains. She's with us. Sakachi blinked. He looked at Aizawa, who gave a minute nod. The detective relaxed. He sighed. Okay. Good work, Toga. Himiko looked at the gun, then at Midoriya's back. She sheathed her knife. I told you, she whispered to Midoriya's back. I'm efficient. As they were loaded onto the buses to head back to school, or the hospital, Himiko felt a heavy weight settle in her gut. She had chosen a side. Definitely. Publicly. Shigaraki wouldn't forget that. She looked out the window at the setting sun. The world was still vibrant. It was red and orange and gold. Hey Izuku, she said, leaning her head on his uninjured shoulder. Yeah? I think I need a nap. Wake me up when we get to the hospital. I want to see if they have apple juice. Sure, Toga-san. She closed her eyes. For the first time in her life, amidst the chaos and the blood and the pain, she felt safe. And that was the weirdest feeling of all. The interrogation room was cleaner than the gray cell she had started in, but it smelled the same. It smelled of cheap coffee, stale fear, and the buzzing ozone of the fluorescent light overhead. Himiko Toga sat on a metal chair, her legs swinging freely. Her ankle monitor had been temporarily deactivated, but her wrists were handcuffed to the table. Across from her sat Detective Sakachi, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. Let's go over it one more time, Sakachi said, rubbing his temples. Shigaraki Tamura recognized you. He called you by name. He asked you to kill Eraserhead? He asked me to join his club, Himiko corrected, tilting her head. It's a very boring club. They wear hands on their faces. It's not cute. Toga. Sakachi leaned forward, his voice hard. Did you have prior contact with the League of Villains? Was your enrollment in UA a setup? Himiko sighed, blowing a stray strand of blonde hair out of her face. Detective, if I wanted to kill everyone, I would have done it when we were on the bus. Or in the locker room. Or during lunch. I don't need a handman to tell me when to cut people. That's not helping your case. I stayed, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. She looked at her hands. I stayed. I fought the bird monster. I dragged Sensei out of the dirt. Does that count for nothing? The door opened. The sound of a heavy boot scraping against the floor followed. That's enough, Sakachi. Aizawa Shoda hobbled into the room. He was a wreck. Both arms were in casts, his face was swathed in bandages like a mummy, and he looked like he was standing through sheer force of will. Eraserhead, Sakachi stood up. You shouldn't be walking. I'm her homeroom teacher, Aizawa grunted, leaning against the wall. She followed protocol. In fact, she exceeded it. She protected 2 classmates, and secured an injured pro hero. Under the Good Samaritan laws and the Yui self-defense clauses, she acted heroically. Himiko stared at the bandages. Sensei, you look like a Halloween costume. Quiet, Aizawa wheezed. The police are jumpy because we were infiltrated. But Toga is clear. I saw her eyes when Shigaraki spoke to her. She wasn't a mole. She was just hungry. Tsukachi looked between the bandaged hero and the girl with the sharp teeth. Finally, he sighed and uncuffed her. Fine. But the ankle monitor goes back on immediately. And the leash gets tighter. Himiko rubbed her wrists. She looked at Aizawa. You stood up for me. I'm a rational man, Aizawa said, turning to limp out. You're my student. Until you prove otherwise, I protect you. Now get back to class. We have work to do. The return to school was chaotic. The media was swarming the gates, desperate for a scoop on the class that survived villains. Himiko found the cameras annoying. They were too bright, and the reporters smelled like desperation. Inside Class 1A, the mood was heavy. The students were quieter, their movements more jagged. They had seen death up close. They had scars now, some physical, some mental. Himiko sat at her desk, observing. Midoriya was muttering more than usual. Bakugo was staring out the window with a look that could melt glass. Uraraka was gripping the hem of her skirt. Attention, Aizawa said, shuffling to the podium. The class gasped at his appearance. Sensei! You're back already? My well-being is irrelevant. More importantly, the fight isn't over. The class tensed. More villains? The Yui Sports Festival is approaching. The tension snapped, replaced by confusion. Is that safe? Kaminari asked. Just after we got attacked? It is necessary, Aizawa replied. To show that UA's crisis management is solid. And for you, this is your debut. Pro heroes will be watching. You have one chance a year. Don't waste it. Himiko perked up. The sports festival. She had watched it on TV before, usually while hiding in a motel room or a squatter house. It was a spectacle. It was a buffet. Hundreds of students, she thought, her golden eyes widening. Hundreds of quirks. Speed, strength, fire, ice. All of them bleeding, sweating, fighting. She raised her hand. Yes, Toga? Are there rules about consumption? She asked sweetly. The class shuddered. Strict rules, Aizawa said, his eye narrowing through the bandages. Which brings me to my next point. Toga, report to the principal's office after homeroom. Principal Nisa's office was nice. It smelled like high-quality tea and old paper. Himiko liked it. It was cozy. Tea? Nisa offered, pouring a cup. I prefer something red, Himiko joked, though she took the cup. Am I in trouble again? On the contrary, Nisa smiled, which was always terrifying on a mouse bear. We are discussing your participation in the festival. There has been debate. Some board members think it is unsafe to let a former villain compete in a high-stress combat tournament. They think I'll eat the competition, Himiko giggled. Precisely. However, Nisa took a sip. I believe in sink or swim. If you are to be a hero, you must learn to wield your power in the light. He slid a small, velvet-lined box across the desk. Himiko opened it. Inside were 6 empty glass vials, reinforced with steel casings, and a set of sterilized hypodermic needles built into a wrist-mounted device. Support item 34B, Nisa explained. Modified phlebotomy gauntlets. They draw a very small, non-lethal amount of blood. Only 10 cubic centimeters. Himiko picked up a vial. It sparkled in the light. Empty? For now. I am authorizing you to use your quirk during the festival, Nisa said, his eyes gleaming. But you are not given a supply. You must acquire it on the field. Himiko froze. You want me to cut students? I want you to be tactical, Nisa corrected. You may only draw blood from willing teammates, or from opponents during combat if, and only if, you can do so without causing significant injury. A scratch. A nick. If you cause deep wounds, you are disqualified and expelled. Do you understand the line you must walk? It was a test. A massive, dangerous test. He was giving a shark permission to swim in the pool, provided it didn't bite too hard. Himiko grinned. A genuine, excited grin. I have to hunt my ammo. Correct. You are a shapeshifter without a face, Toga. Show us who you can become. 2 weeks later, the stadium. The roar of the crowd was a physical force. It vibrated in Himiko's teeth. Hey! Are you ready? President Mike screamed over the speakers. Class 1A walked out into the sunlight. They looked different. Determined. The 2 weeks of training had hardened them. Himiko adjusted her gym uniform. She had modified it again, of course, tying the shirt to show her midriff and wearing her new wrist gauntlets. She felt light. Man, there are so many people, Midoriya muttered, shaking like a leaf. Don't trip, Izuka-kun, Himiko whispered, poking his side. You'll look silly on TV, Toga-san, Midoriya squeaked. Are you excited? I'm hungry, she replied, scanning the other classes. She saw a boy with purple hair in general studies who looked dead inside. She saw the confident Class 1B. So many flavors. Midnight, the R-rated hero, took the stage. The boys in the audience cheered. Himiko just admired her whip. Time for the athlete's oath. Midnight announced. Bakugo Katsuki. Bakugo slouched up to the microphone. The stadium went silent. I pledge, Bakugo said, leaning into the mic, that I'll be number 1. The crowd erupted in boos. Class 1A facepalmed. At least you'll be a nice stepping stone, Bakugo added, walking off. Himiko laughed aloud. He's so angry. It's cute. It's not cute, it's suicidal, Kaminari groaned. Now everyone hates us. Let them hate us, Himiko said, her eyes tracking Bakugo. It makes the chase more fun. First event, the obstacle race. Start. The gate opened. It was a stampede. Students shoved, elbowed, and trampled each other to get through the narrow tunnel. Himiko didn't shove. She didn't fight. She went up. Using the shoulders of a tall boy from Class C as a stepping stone, she vaulted onto the pipes running along the ceiling of the tunnel. She scrambled on all fours, upside down, moving like a spider. Whoa! Look at that agility! President Mike shouted. Class 1A's rehabilitated rebel is climbing the walls. Literally, she burst out of the tunnel in the top 20. The cool air hit her face. First obstacle, Robo Inferno. The 0-pointers from the entrance exam blocked the path. Massive, metal titans, Todoroki froze them instantly, sliding through. Bakugo blasted over them. Himiko didn't have ice or fire. She had speed. As a robot swiped at a group of students, Himiko sprinted. She ran up the robot's extended arm. Hi there! She chirped to the robot's optical sensor as she reached the shoulder. She backflipped off the head, clearing the blockade while the robot was still processing her location. She landed in a roll and kept running. No Quirk usage yet. Aizawa commented from the booth. She's relying entirely on physical conditioning. She's fast. Mike yelled. Second obstacle, the fall. A canyon with tight ropes. For most, this was terrifying. For Himiko, who used to play tag on rooftops to escape police drones, it was a playground. She didn't walk the rope. She ran. Her balance was supernatural. She laughed, passing a crying support student clinging to the wire. She was gaining ground. She was in the top 10 now. Third obstacle, the minefield. This was tricky. Explosions hurt. Bakugo and Todoroki were fighting at the front. They were slowing each other down. Himiko stopped at the edge of the field. She watched. She saw where the mines were buried. The disturbed earth gave it away. Step. Step. Hop. Step. She danced through the danger zone. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the rear. Midoriya. He was flying through the air on a piece of robot plating. Izuka-kun is flying. Himiko clapped her hands. He slammed down ahead of Bakugo and Todoroki, taking the lead. Himiko sprinted the last 100 meters. She didn't care about first place. First place got too much attention. She wanted to pass. She crossed the finish line in 8th place, slipping between a startled Ida and a panting Tokoemi. Clear! Midnight shouted. Himiko bent over, hands on her knees, grinning. She hadn't used a drop of blood. She was just Himiko. And that was enough. Second event, the Cavalry battle. The top 42 make it through. Midnight announced. Now, for the main event. The Cavalry battle. The rules were explained. points assigned by rank. Midoriya, in first place, was worth 10 million points. The stadium turned to look at the green-haired boy. He shrank back, terrified. Everyone is a predator now, Himiko whispered, licking her lips. Teams began to form. Everyone avoided Midoriya like the plague. Nobody wanted the target on their back. Everyone also avoided Himiko. Hey, wanna team up? She asked Shoji. No thanks, he muttered, moving away. Ojiro-kun? I'm good. The stigma of the villain was still there. They feared she would lose control. Himiko stood alone in the crowd, feeling that familiar gray creeping into the edges of her vision. Nobody wants to play with the freak. Then she heard shouting. You extras are useless. Bakugo was screaming at, well, everyone. Bakugo, Kirishima shouted. Be rational. We need a team. I don't need anyone. I'll blast them all. You need a rider and horses, Siro pointed out. We have defense and mobility, but we need. Himiko walked up to them. She didn't ask. She just stepped into their circle. I'm in, she said. Bakugo looked down at her. Ha! The hell you are. Get lost, crazy. You need someone to watch your back, Himiko said, pointing at his blind spot. You're going to be focused on Deku. You're going to get tunnel vision. You need someone with eyes everywhere. We have plenty of people, Bakugo scoffed. But do you have someone who can be you? Himiko asked, her voice dropping lower. Bakugo paused. What? Monoma from Class B. Himiko pointed a finger across the field. The blonde guy with the smug face. I saw him copying Quirks in the obstacle race. If he touches you, he gets your explosions. Then you're fighting yourself. Bakugo glared at Monoma. But if I'm on your team, Himiko smiled, tapping her empty vials, I can be a decoy. I can be a shield. I can be chaos. Bakugo stared at her. He hated villains. He hated her history. But he also hated losing more than anything in the world. And she was right. Monoma was annoying. What do you want? Bakugo growled. A drink, Himiko said simply. Just a sip. If we get in a pinch. I need your explosion to win. Kirishima looked nervous. Dude, are you sure? Letting her. Fine, Bakugo spat. But if you bite me, I'll blow your face off. Deal. Himiko cheered. The formation. Rider, Bakugo Katsuki. Front horse, Kirishima Aijiro. Red Riot Defense. Left wing, Siro Hanta. Tape mobility / capture. Right wing, Toga Himiko. Stealth / wildcard. Start. The battle was a frenzy. Kill DKU. Bakugo screamed, kicking off immediately. Siro used tape to pull them forward. Kirishima hardened to break through barriers. Himiko ran alongside, her light footsteps matching their heavy ones. She kept her head on a swivel. Incoming from the left. She shouted. Shoji and Mineta were attacking. Bakugo blasted them away. Too slow. They racked up points. They were a juggernaut. But Bakugo was obsessed with the 10 million. Suddenly, a hand reached out from nowhere. Slap. Bakugo's headband vanished. Thank you very much, a polite, mocking voice said. They skidded to a halt. Monoma Nito stood there on his team, holding Bakugo's headband. Class A really is arrogant, Monoma smirked. You attack without thinking. Give it back. Bakugo roared, launching an explosion. Monoma raised his hand. Boom. He created an explosion of equal size, canceling Bakugo's out. See? Monoma laughed. Your quirk is quite good. I think I'll keep it. Bakugo's face went blank with rage. I'm going to kill him. Bakugo, calm down. Kirishima yelled. We have 0 points now. We need a plan. He has your quirk, Siro panicked. We can't get close. Hey Katsuki. Himiko poked Bakugo's leg. Bakugo looked down, his eyes bloodshot. What? Time to pay the toll, she said, holding up her wrist gauntlet. Bakugo hesitated for a fraction of a second. Then, he shoved his arm toward her face. Do it! Himiko didn't hesitate. She pressed the gauntlet against his forearm. The needle snapped out. Hiss. The red liquid filled the vial. Thanks for the meal. She downed it instantly. The transformation was grotesque and beautiful. Gray slime bubbled over her skin. Her hair spiked up. Her eyes turned red. Her muscles expanded. In 2 seconds there were 2 Bakugo Katsukis on the horse. What the hell? Monoma's smile faltered. Which one is real, you copycat trash? Both Bakugos screamed in unison. The stereo effect was terrifying. Charge! Real Bakugo yelled. Zero pulled them forward. Monoma prepared to blast them. Die! Monoma fired an explosion. Real Bakugo countered it. Smoke filled the air. Now! Himiko Bakugo leaped. Not off the horse, she detached from the formation momentarily, a risky move. She vaulted over the explosion smoke. She looked exactly like Bakugo. She screamed exactly like Bakugo. D! She swung her arm. Monoma flinched, raising his guard to block a massive explosion, but there was no explosion. Himiko didn't copy the quirk perfectly instantly, or maybe she chose not to use it yet. She just used the momentum. She reached past his guard. She didn't punch him. She snatched the headbands from around his neck. Yoink! She shouted in Bakugo's voice, which sounded incredibly weird saying yoink. She landed back on the horse as the smoke cleared. I got him! Himiko Bakugo held up the fistful of headbands. Don't get cocky, clone! Real Bakugo yelled, grabbing them from her. Monoma was stunned. 2 of them? That's cheating. It's strategy. Kirishima cheered. Time's up. The buzzer sounded. Himiko felt the transformation slip. The slime melted away, leaving her panting in her gym uniform. The adrenaline crash hit her hard. We did it? Zero asked, checking the scoreboard. 2nd place, Team Bakugo. They hadn't gotten the 10 million. Todoroki got it, then Midoriya messed it up, but they had enough to advance. Bakugo stood there, breathing heavily. He looked at the headbands in his hand. Then he looked at Toga, who was wiping some slime off her face. You're disgusting, Bakugo said. And you taste like spicy peppers and gunpowder, Himiko retorted, sticking her tongue out. It gave me heartburn, Bakugo huffed. He turned away, but the usual murderous aura was slightly dimmed. At least you're not useless. High praise, Kirishima laughed, slapping Toga on the back. That was awesome, Toga. You totally freaked him out, Himiko smiled. Her ankle monitor beeped quietly. She had used her quirk. She had tasted blood. And nobody had screamed in fear. They were cheering. The break room. Himiko sat on a bench, swinging her legs. She was tired. Being Bakugo was exhausting. So much anger energy. Toga. She looked up. Todoroki Shoto was standing there. He looked like an ice sculpture, cold, beautiful, and sad. Oh, the candy cane boy, Himiko said. Congrats on 2nd place. Or was it 1st? I lost track. You fought well, Todoroki said flatly. You took Bakugo's blood. He gave it to me, Himiko clarified. Consent is key. Todoroki sat down on the bench opposite her. My father. Endeavor. He was watching you, Himiko stiffened. The big fire guy. He looks mean. He said a villain is always a villain. That you rely on stealing power from others because you have none of your own. Himiko gripped the edge of the bench. The words stung. They sounded like the things her parents used to say. Deviant. Leech. Monster. He's wrong, Todoroki said. Himiko blinked. You took Bakugo's power, but you used it to help your team. You didn't hurt anyone. Todoroki looked at his left hand. My father thinks power defines you. He thinks blood defines you. Blood is important, Himiko whispered. It's life, but it's not who you are, Todoroki said. He looked at her with intense, heterochromatic eyes. Are you your blood, Toga? Or are you what you do with it? Himiko thought about the gray room. She thought about Midoriya's broken finger. She thought about Bakugo's grudging respect. I'm Himiko, she said firmly. I want to know people. I want to be them. But maybe I can just be me, too, Todoroki nodded slowly. I am trying to reject my father's blood. His fire. I refuse to use it. That sounds sad, Himiko said, tilting her head. If you have fire, you should use it to keep your friends warm. Or to roast marshmallows. Todoroki looked taken aback. Marshmallows? Yeah. S'mores. Himiko grinned. You're too serious, Shoto-kun. You need to smile more. You're very pretty when you're not frowning. Todoroki stood up. The corners of his mouth twitched, just barely. I'll keep that in mind. Good luck in the tournament, Toga. You too. As he walked away, Himiko leaned back against the wall. The tournament bracket was up on the screen. Round 1. Midoriya Izuka vs. Shinso Hitoshi. Toga Himiko vs. Uraraka Ochako. Himiko stared at the screen. Ochako-chan, she whispered. Her heart did a little flutter. It wasn't bloodlust. It was something else. Excitement. She reached into her pocket and touched the empty vials. I wonder, she mused. Who is the cuter Ochako? The real one? Or me? She stood up, her energy returning. The gray was gone. The world was bright lights and loud cheers. Let's find out.